Good morning, I am Dr. Yasmin Magdi and today we are going to start our first lecture from module Financial Institution Audit. This is going to be our book and it contains all the material for this course. Our course content, our course is in 4 chapters. In chapter 1 we discuss, the chapter 1 title is an overview of auditing of banks. In this chapter we describe assurance services including auditing and deal with audit objectives in financial institutions, especially in commercial banks. Chapter 3 is talking about banks. We are discussing the characteristics of banks and deal with auditors and management responsibilities towards internal audit and internal control in commercial banks. Chapter 3 we discuss in this chapter the audit process. In this chapter we study various aspects of audit planning in depth, summarize and integrates audit planning and audit evidence. Finally, chapter 4 is discuss or talking about final products of audit, and this is audit report. In this chapter we are going to provide a detailed discussion of audit reports and types of auditing and audit opinion. Now let's start with our first chapter, an overview of auditing of banks. Just in this chapter we are going to discuss definition of financial institutions and what is the characteristic of these definitions. Also we are going to talk about services CPAs could provide to financial institutions and especially commercial banks. And third, we are going to define the commercial banks and its characteristics. This is for our first lecture. Let's start our first lecture with the definition of financial institution audit. First, we are going to define audit of financial statements. Audit is financial statements is a systematic process of objective collection and evaluation of evidence regarding management assertion on economic events and actions to the level of trust between those assertions and established criteria and revealing of the results to the interested users. This is the definition of audit as whole. So audit of financial statements, systematic process. Systematic process meaning we have some main steps we have to follow of objective collection and evaluation of evidence. The backbone of audit process is collecting and evaluation of evidence. Without evidence, the auditor can giving his opinion. So, while he collecting and accumulating and evaluations of the evidence, he collecting and evaluations the evidence regarding management assertion in economic actions and events. Because he need to make a trust between these assertions and establishing criteria. Establishing criteria in financial statements audit is going to be generally accepted auditing principles and IFRS. But we are going to find that evidence or criteria in financial statements audit or financial institution audit is going to be more than generally accepted accounting principles and also IFRS. We are going to add to these criteria the laws and regulation from, like for example here in Egypt, Central Bank of Egypt. Okay, and revealing of the results to integrating users. So after he accumulating and evaluation his evidence and be sure or make a level of trust between assertions, management assertion and establishing criteria, he have to communicate or have to give his opinion, his results to the interested users. Interested users meaning insider users and outsider users. This is definition of an audit of financial statements. What about definition of financial institution audit? Financial institution audit is a routine procedure designed to review the services of financial institution to ensure they are in compliance with laws and industry standards. So financial institution audit is a traditional audit process. But the nature of the industry and the nature of this department or this sector affected this process. احنا هنا في اول جزء من الليكتشر هنتكلم على الديفينيشن اوف اوديت. هناخد هنا عندنا two definitions: definition of audit of financial statements as a whole and definition of financial institutions audit as a title of our module. Audit of financial statements is systematic process. Systematic process meaning it's have a definite steps or specific steps we have to follow as an auditors. يعني فيها خطوات محددة المفروض احنا نتبعها as an auditors. الهدف من البروسيس دي او الهدف من الاوبجكتيف دي ان احنا نعمل collection and evaluation of evidence. احنا نجمع ونقيم مجموعة من الايفيدنس. الباك بون او العمود الفقري لاي عملية audit هي الايفيدنس. Why we accumulating evidence? We accumulating evidence to give to or to achieve level of trust between management assertion and established criteria، عشان نوصل لمرحلة من الثقة أو لمستوى من الثقة ما بين الاسsertions التأكيدات اللي بتديهاني الإدارة عن some economic actions and some economic events و established criteria. ال established criteria عندي اللي احنا بنتكلم فيها في العادي في الفاينانشال institute أو في audit of financial statements هي عندي ال generally accepted accounting principles وال IFRS. This is for example. هنيجي نكتشف أو we will going to find out that in financial institution audit criteria we have more criteria. عندنا laws وعندنا regulations وعندنا some laws related to the industry. لأن احنا هنكتشف we are going to find out that the financial institutions have some characteristics أو specific characteristics making different from other sectors. So based on these characteristics هنلاقي إن احنا as an auditors as we have auditing financial institutions statements هنلاقي عندنا ان احنا we need some more knowledge or some more steps we need to take as we auditing financial institutions. So the criteria in financial institution audit was going to be generally accepted accounting principles, IFRS plus regulation from Central Bank of Egypt. Okay, these definitions. So why we have accumulating this evidence, and when we achieve the level of trust we have to reveal our results to the users. لازم نوضح النتائج اللي احنا وصلنا لها لليوزرز بتاعنا. يبقى the objective or the main objective of audit is to achieve results and to communicate this result to the users. ان احنا نوصل لنتيجة معينة وكوميونيكيت او نبلغ النتيجة دي لليوزرز. طيب financial institution audit is traditional audit process. هي عملية بسيطة أو عملية تقليدية routine procedures designed to review the service of financial institutions to ensure they are in compliance with laws and industry standards. احنا بنعمل financial institution audit هي طريقة عادية، هي برضو audit of financial statement، هي برضو systematic process، هي برضو الغرض منها ان انا accumulate and evaluation evidence. بس هنا بقى هنبدأ نتأثر or the types of industry or the characteristics specific characteristics of the industry of the sector will going to affect this evidence, will going to affect these services we giving as an auditors. Okay, so let's see the definitions or the elements of the previous definition. First element of the previous definition that is auditor or what that the auditing is going to done by a competent and independent person. We are going to find out that competency and independency of the person or the auditor is more important to achieve its proper conclusion. So we need to find out an independent person who has qualified enough to make an assessment and make a good decision about what kind of evidence he should accumulate and make a good assessment for evidence. He can make an assessment for evidence or accumulate the correct amount of evidence as he has an experience, as he have a good judgmental. So when he accumulate evidence and evaluate this evidence, he going to have his proper collection, and this proper collection is going to communicate to the users. يبقى أهم حاجة أو first element or the most important element of auditing is the one who's doing the audit process. مين اللي هيعمل عملية المراجعة؟ He should be independency. He should have independency and should be competency. What is the meaning of competency? Meaning he have experience, he is qualified enough. Why I need a qualified person? I need qualified person to give a good judgment about the amount of evidence he need to accumulate, and when he make an assessment for this evidence, as evidence is the backbone for the audit process. When he accumulate and making an evaluation of his evidence, he can give his proper collection, and his proper collection is his opinion about whether the financial statement of these institutions are fairly representing the financial position of the financial position of the institution or the bank or whatever the company we are going or in the institution we are going to make an audit. يبقى انا محتاجه شخص يكون مؤهل كفايه qualified enough وهو بيجمع الايفيدنس وبيعمل عمليه assessment للايفيدنس عشان in final results هو هيديني conclusion والconclusion ده هيكون his opinion about whether the financial statements بتعبر بصدق وعداله fairly representing the financial position والfinancial results. اوكي. second eliminate عندي ان economic events or audit is performed in according with international standards in auditing and examines whether the financial statements are prepared in according with the international financial reporting IFRS. So to make the criteria information and established criteria is going to be international standards in auditing, also is going to be international financial reporting standards, and also adding to this in financial institution audit is going to be laws and regulation from some kind of institutions like commercial bank or central bank in Egypt. Also accumulating evidence and evaluating evidence, okay, meaning that economic events and activities are business activities which are the subject of audit from which the auditor draws conclusions and findings. How we are going to make conclusions and findings? Through collected evidence. What is the meaning of evidence? Evidence is any information used by the auditor to determine whether the information being audited is stated in accordance with established criteria, and we mentioned before the established criteria. So the collection and the evaluation of evidence is the instrument of obtaining facts and documents on which the audit findings and reports are based. Evidence could be transaction data, client inquiry, written and electronic communication with outsiders, or observation from the auditor. Last element of the definition is reporting. Reporting meaning in order to be useful, audit results are provided to all interested parties, meaning the final step communicated to the findings to the users, meaning I define or I communicate the findings to the user. So let's summarize the definition elements or the 6 elements of the definition. First, an audit should be planned and have the strategy of the phases of the audit process. Second, objectivity. Objectivity means that the person who performs the audit should be independent and should be competency and as well as the quality of auditing. Third, the collection and the evaluation of evidence is the instrument of obtaining facts and the documents in which the audit findings and reports are based. Fourth, economic activities and events are business activities which are the subject of the audit from which the auditor draw conclusions and findings. 5. Audit is performed in accordance with the international standards of auditing and examine whether the financial statements are prepared in accordance with the international financial reporting or financial standards. 6. In order to be useful, audit results are provided to all interested parties, and that is audit report. Okay, our through audit report. Now we are going to discuss services CPA could provide to financial institutions. There are various services that a CPA might provide to financial institutions. عندي wide range of services the auditor could provide, or the CPA meaning Certified Public Accounts, and this is the title of the auditor in USA, could provide to financial institutions, specifically for commercial banks. As we said in this module, we are going to concentrate on commercial banks. There are a wide range of services could be CPA could provide to financial institutions. عندي كم لا نهائي من الخدمات او كم كبير جدا من الخدمات الاوديتور ممكن يوفرها للفاينانشال انستتيوشنز. وقلنا اهم حاجه في الفاينانشال انستتيوشنز عندي اللي احنا هنفوكس عليها جدا هي الكوميرشال بانكس. فاحنا بنقول ان في wide range of services. The nature, timing and extent of procedures performed will depend in the first place on the scope of service requested by the institution. حجم النيتشر يعني the nature, timing, what kind of report the auditor is going to give, what kind of procedures, what kind of evidence the auditor should accumulate and evaluate, should be based on the type of service the auditor is going to do for the client, for the bank, for the financial institution. Okay, but before the auditor accept this service, he should accumulate or make an assessment with his qualifications. If the service that the financial institutions asked for the auditor, before the auditor to accept this service or accept to do this service for the institution, he should making an assessment for his qualifications, his experience, his training, and to complete the engagement. If the engagement is one of the specialized nature, and the auditor should consider whether it's necessary to obtain additional training through seminars or other resources. Okay, the auditor should also ensure that any applicable independence requirements are met prior to accepting an engagement. So the auditor can't accept any engagements with any financial institutions, with any kind of services, without making an assessment for himself. What kind of assessment? Is he qualified enough? Is he have enough experience? If he didn't have qualified enough or didn't have experience enough, he should make more experience. He should make training for him to accumulate more experience or to get more experience, or he could go to outside outsourcing. ممكن يلجأ للاوتسورسing. يبقى انا قبل as an auditor before انا accept الانجيجمنت لازم اعمل عمليه assessment لنفسي، اشوف هل انا experienced enough, qualified enough. خلاص okay, I'm experienced enough, qualified enough to make audit services to these financial institutions or these specialized institutions. Okay, if I am not qualified enough, I have two options. First option, to make training, adopt training, okay, or to go to outsourcing. اجيب ناس من بره يعملوا لي الشغل ده. To get outsourcing meaning I get specialized persons, specialized auditors in this kind of services, if I don't want to lose this customer or this auditee. Okay, so what kind of services CPA could provide to financial institutions? We have three types of services that CPA could provide to financial institutions. First one is audit services. Second one is agreed upon procedures engagement for the trust department, and other services, another kind of services the auditor could provide to financial institutions. Let's discuss the three services or the three types of services the CPA could provide to financial institutions in the following slides. Okay, so what kind of services CPA could provide to financial institutions? The main important service, the primary service. The second service is agreed upon procedures engagement. Agreed upon. There is other service like include tax and consulting services. Now let's move to the final part of our lecture, and in this final part we are going to discuss the commercial banks, the financial institution we are going to focus in studying in this course, and its characteristics. First, let's define what is the meaning of a bank. A bank is a type of financial institution that is recognized as a bank by the regulatory authorities in the countries in which it operates and usually has exclusive right to use the term bank as a part of its name. يبقى البنوك عندي هنا هو kind of or type of financial institution، هو نوع من انواع الفاينانشال institutions اللي اداله صفه ان هو بنك هي regulatory authorities. Regulatory authorities like Central Bank of Egypt here in Egypt, okay, in the countries in which it operates. So in Egypt it's Central Bank and usually have exclusive right to use the term bank as الوفا to commercial bank or National Bank of Egypt, so they have exclusive right to use term bank as part of its name. This is the definition of a bank. Okay, there is so many types of banks. The famous one is a commercial bank, and this is the one we are going to focus in our studying. So what is the definition of commercial bank? A bank is whose primary function is to acceptance of deposits and the making of loans. هدفه الأساسي إن ياخد ودايع أو ياخد حسابات وكمان يديلك قروض. A commercial bank will often also offer other financial services وكمان بيقدم لي بعض الخدمات المالية التانية such as the purchase or the sale of precious metals, foreign currencies and wide range of financial instruments. Okay, this is the definition of commercial bank and definition of the bank. I don't need you to summarize or to find out or to know the definition as just for your knowledge, okay, but this course is not focusing on the definitions of the banks characteristic. Just you need to know the commercial of the banks, the characteristics, to know how these characteristics could affect the process of auditing. اوكي، يبقى احنا مش مطلوب مني ان انا اعرف تعريف البنك واحفظه، لا، هو كل المطلوب مني بس ان انا افهم الكاركترستكس دي، عشان الكاركترستكس دي هتاثر بعد كده على مهمه المراجعه اللي احنا هنعملها او السيرفيس اللي احنا الاوديت سيرفيس اللي احنا we are going to offer as an auditor. This diagram show you the functions of commercial banks. I have primary functions and secondary functions. The primary functions are accepting deposits or provide loans and advances with credit creation. And second functions اللي هو agency functions و utility functions. agency functions for example عندي interest collection, interest payment, و utility functions زي like locker functions. This is a diagram. You have to just to see it to know the functions of commercial. It's not don't have to memorize it because as we said in the previous slide, just we need to know the definitions and the characteristic to see how these characteristics could affect the audit process or the audit service we are going to provide as an auditor. Okay, let's discuss some of the characteristics of the banks. Okay, first of all, or first characteristic of the banks, they have custody of large amount of minority items, including cash, whose physical security has to be safeguarded during transfer and while being stored. عندهم حجم كبير جدا من الايتمز اللي محتاجه انها تحصل لها عمليه حمايه. I have to secure it لما بعمل لها during transfer لما باجي انقلها. Also they are engaged in transactions that are these transactions recorded in different types and managed in yet another different places. عندهم a large wide of transactions. These transactions need to correctly recorded and correctly managed. Okay, also they operate with high leverage. What is the meaning of high leverage? Meaning that the ratio of capital, or meaning they are working in operating with very high leverage, meaning the ratio of capital to total assets is low, which increases banks or which increasing banks failure or banking risks of failure. Okay, they are giving a significant amount or a wide range amount of funding from short-term deposits. Okay, meaning if they lose of this confidence by depositors in a bank, meaning the bank is going to face solvency and bankruptcy. Okay, they engage also in a large volume and variety of transactions whose volume may be significant. This requires complex accounting, internal control systems, and widespread use of internal information technology. Like they use e.g. electronic signature, ATM, electronic transfer. So they have to use a wide range of information technology services. Okay, this is some kind of characteristics of banks. We can we can know more about these characteristics through our book. Okay, so how these characteristics could affect auditing, and what I need as an auditor to have auditing these characteristics or this institution with these characteristics. Now we finished our lecture. In this lecture, we discussed the definition of financial statements audit and the definition of audit of financial institutions. Also, we discussed the services that auditor could provide to financial institutions. Also, we discussed what is the definition of banks, commercial banks, and its characteristics. Next week or next lecture, we are going to discuss the role of external auditor in banking organizations, and we have to know some of other vocabulary or some of other terms we use as an auditors while we are doing our audit process. Thank you.